Moving on next, we have an opening keynote on the product innovation at scale. And for this, it's my pleasure to invite on stage Mr. Sunil Gopinath, CEO of Rakuten India. Please give him a big round of applause. As a CEO of Rakuten India, Sunil spearheads the scaling product and technology footprint across the wide range of Rakuten's global businesses. Sunil is also responsible for driving the rapid adoption of data science and AI across the Rakuten's global product and ecosystem. He is also advisor to many startup and is a global leadership coach. Sunil has held various senior leadership roles globally in the companies like Intel and Qualcomm, driving the innovation. And prior to Rakuten, as a head of Flipkart's marketplace division, Sunil helped and build a scale their marketplace business to 2 billion plus business over 1 lakh merchant. Thank you, Sunil. Over to you.
Thank you. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah. Thank you. Before I get started, it's wonderful to see the room full. As you know, this is the Product Management Summit, so a lot of folks here are product folks and leaders, and I know it's of a lot of interest to you. Just about 10 minutes ago, the room was empty, and my team and I were thinking, hey, shouldn't we be in the plenary session, because this looks like a plenary session to me. But it's just amazing to see everybody come here. So let me get started. While the theme of what I'm going to talk about is product innovation at scale, it'll become apparent as I speak. Let me start with this particular quote. You've all heard a similar quote, which is, yeah, strategy is important, but culture eats strategy for breakfast. So strategy and execution is always tick-tock. As product leaders, product strategists, all of you, I'm pretty sure, are tick-tocking between what's the right thing to do? How do I beat my competition? What's the market opportunity look like? Am I differentiated enough? Do I have the pricing right? What do I do? What do I not do? And why should I do it? I mean, that's strategy, right? And then execution and tactics is all about how do I actually make this happen? Do I have the right kind of prioritization, the resources, the costs, the pricing and go-to-market strategy, partnerships? What kind of compromises am I making? And so this tick-tock happens in real time at a continuous pace, and some of the best product leaders and product managers are the ones that can achieve a reasonable balance. So my first part of few minutes is going to be about strategy, and then I'm going to get into execution. So the world of internet services globally is moving to an ecosystem play. Right? There's very few single business, single product, single service companies that can manage scale and continue to grow over time. What do I mean by an ecosystem play? Let's look at some of the existing ecosystems / emerging ecosystems globally. Right? You look at Google, of course, clearly from Android to all of Google services, to IoT devices, Google Cloud, and so on. And similar kind of ecosystems are forming among the US biggies like Meta, of course, Alibaba and Tencent, right? From search engine to e-commerce to payments to banking and so on. SoftBank in Japan. That is the level of scale needed to create an ecosystem. And what does an ecosystem mean? And what's the value of an ecosystem? Right? You're leveraging economies of scale. You're lowering cost of acquisition of customers, because once you already have customers in your ecosystem for one business or service, it's a lot more cheaper and easier to acquire them for another service you're going to provide. It's cheaper cost of execution, and you're going to keep them in your walled garden for a long period of time. Right? You're going to provide rewards and royalty and so on and so forth. And so that is the power of building an ecosystem. Similar ecosystems are emerging in India market as well, right? You can see the Walmart business, from travel to payments to commerce. Reliance Jio, with all of its services from content, television, as well as Tata Neu, are all trying to do the same thing. Build an ecosystem, build a walled garden which provides you economies of scale, which keeps your customers within your ecosystem and makes it harder for them to switch loyalty from your platform to another platform. Now let me talk a little bit about why am I speaking about this? Well, I represent one of the largest internet services, actually the largest internet services company in Japan, and one of the largest globally, which is Rakuten. We have about 1.6 billion users globally, about 1 billion or so on Viber, and 500 to 600 on the Rakuten ecosystem. We have about 70 different businesses, from commerce to banking to payments, media, streaming, messaging. And this is an ecosystem that has been built over 25 years. With the largest credit card company, with largest bank, largest payments company in Japan. The revolution in fintech you are seeing in India today and the ecosystem convergence that is happening was played out 10 years ago in Japan, right? When Rakuten pioneered. We started e-commerce 25 years ago, and then after running it, becoming the largest marketplace in Japan, decided we need to do an ecosystem play and venture into payments and banking and credit card and sort of removed friction in doing fintech digitally online, leading to significant scale. Now, but ecosystem play is hard. I mean, if it were easy, everybody would have done it, right? Now, I can't tell you in this short setting how to build an ecosystem or how to scale it or how to be extremely competent about it. What I can tell you is some of the tactics, a few of the dozens of tactics at play and are important and necessary and that have helped us succeed while you go down this strategy of building an ecosystem. I'll talk about 5 specific ones, give some examples more at a product level so that you can connect the dots to some of the things that we are doing and hopefully that can help you in your businesses as well. First is innovate while scaling. So one of the things as a product manager or product leader you have to do is you have to do a trade-off between scale and innovation, right? End of the day, you want both. So how do you do both? For example, one of the things that we had to do was, as the number of users for payments for Rakuten scaled significantly, not only in Japan, but in Taiwan, in Luxembourg, in Europe, we had to solve for a multi-cloud, multi-hybrid, multi-DC global strategy with respect to scaling, right? And if you're a product guy, you know that your technology team is going to come and say, I need to spend the next 6 to 9 months solving for this scale, so I can't build any new product innovation. And that's the worst nightmare of a product leader, right? You just can't let that happen. So the trick is to figure out a balance. In our case, we knew that there are 2 or 3 things that we absolutely had to do in terms of product innovation, right? Of course, the first one is all about scale, which is how do I do this multi-DC? Second is how do I build payments in the edge? Because a lot of our payments are also used in offline stores. In fact, 90% of Rakuten Pay is used in offline stores like 7-Eleven and so on. And in this situation, the latency, the lead time you have to authenticate the payments is less than millisecond, right? So solving for edge infrastructure is extremely critical. If I don't solve for latency, there's no point if I do watch-based payments, right? Nobody's going to have the patience to hang out, until the payment is done. We had to build a super app. A lot of payments-related micro apps were all coming together for us, from travel authentications to paying for your train ticket in Tokyo, to buying a movie tickets and so on and so forth. So building a converged super app where a lot of our extended payment apps comes together to provide an integrated user experience was also extremely important. So if you look at this, basically you had to do both. We had to do both. Similar things, pay anywhere, right, from your watch. A lot of the customers in Japan are lead technology users. They buy the latest gadgets, so you've got to enable your payments on multi-platforms. We also had to solve for our merchants, right? Merchants needs insights on what do I buy, what do I stock, where do I stock? I've got all these different stores across Japan and Europe. What is actually hot selling? What is demand? What is supply? Giving those insights to merchants is equally important. So my point here is, as a product leader, you have to take a call on how do you bucketize these priorities and do both in parallel or at least in a staggered way, right? Few sprints, few months, you solve for scale. When scale and stability catches up, you then launch a new, completely brand new app for a smartwatch. So that sort of jigsaw puzzle and TikTok model that you take is extremely critical if you want to do both. Second, leveraging the power of data and AI. I mean, for us, this is oxygen. We've got 70 businesses, which means thousands of microservices, billions of users, and cross-synergy between all these users. The same person shopping on Rakuten Ichiba, which is e-commerce, is using our credit card to buy a beer in 7-Eleven. They're gifting a golf session to their family on Rakuten Golf, and they're buying 6 nights vacation at a resort somewhere in US through Rakuten Travel. Right? So building a persona of this consumer on all their activities across all of our platforms is our oxygen. I mean, that's where we get the maximum bang for our buck. And there are certain, deep product innovations that are needed. Product knowledge graph. Product knowledge graph is one of the most critical machine learning and AI tool that you can use in order to create a knowledge graph of multiple related products. It's the heart and soul of e-commerce. Somebody wants to buy green tea, in your product graph that they're probably going to need a green tea cup for green tea. They're going to need a coffee table and a coffee tablecloth, and they maybe want a coffee cake along with it. These are all related products. With that information, the personalization and the breadth of selection that you can bring to commerce is immense. It's a non-negotiable core of your key product offering for commerce. Same with social graph. How are my consumers connected? Not only do I know what they behave, but who are their friends? We have a business in fintech, which is a loans business, online loans business. Now, gone are the days where millennials are going to come. No millennial is going to come and give you reams and reams of documentation to get a loan, right? You apply for a loan, you need a loan in 2 minutes, 3 minutes max, or they lose patience and they're out, right? So your convergence, your flow, everything gets affected. So what do? Okay, these people are connected. I'm connected to Nandan Nilekani and I'm messaging him every weekend. So I better have a good credit rating because he's responding to me, which is true, by the way. Occasionally he responds. Now, this is just a sample of the kind of social graph that we create in order to analyze and have what we call customer DNA. Everything from their credit worthiness, from their shopping preferences, what they like, what they don't like, what their family looks like, because the wife and husband are probably both shopping, and based on what they shop, what they like, the next gift to recommend for their anniversary. Right? Extremely, extremely critical for us when we operate at this scale. And this is where I tie it back to what does product innovation at scale mean. The third one, a lot of companies have research, deep data sciences organization. So do we. And the trick here is how quickly can you commercialize research? It is important to invest in research. It's important to think long term. But guess what? Short term is the new long term. Nobody has got patience these days to invest for 10 years in some cutting edge technology for it to go to market. We invested in a pretty cutting edge piece of technology called photoimmune therapy, and we've got 2 Nobel laureates, were awarded to a couple of our employees for coming up with photoimmune therapy for curing cancer. What it does, it uses light rays, white light, to excite the immune system, so that the immune system that's actually dormant in most human beings gets excited, and then it recognizes that this is actually a cancer cell that you need to go and attack and kill. And then the cancer cell, the immune cells, or the T cells, goes after the cancer cells and kills it. Now, healthcare is a new space we wanted to get into. And a lot of the initial research was actually using biology and biologists to solve for this. Because once you start administering the medicine, it goes through your vein, and then you use phototherapy to increase immunity. How do you know it's working? This is a painfully long time to solve for cancer, right? It takes about 9 months to administer this medicine before you even know if it's working. Of course, you do things like tissue sampling and blood sampling and so on and so forth, but again, it's biologists doing this. And that's where we came in. In fact, the India team sitting out of Bangalore, Rakuten India, built the entire data sciences and AI for this, and genomics, which basically look at a whole bunch of markers, probably hundreds and thousands of markers, from blood to urine to protein to tissue samples, using computer vision, image recognition, gene markers, gene analysis, and within a matter of weeks is able to say, using simple parameters, what is the distance between the T cells, the killer cells, and the cancer cell? It is decreasing. It's an indication that it's actually activated and going and killing the cancer cell. And now I'm happy to say that something that was researched 4 years ago is about to be commercialized, and we're going to launch this cancer care solution in India next year across the country. Now, why India? the largest head and neck cancer happens to be in India because the largest tobacco chewing country in the world happens to be India. And so extremely promising research that became science, that became technology. It's now called a digital pathology solution. And we are working with partners and hospitals across the country who are going to get the device, the light, the AI solution that can help them, doctors, to administer this pretty quickly. So this is what I mean by commercializing science and research quickly and take it to market. The fourth one is embracing emerging technologies. There are times as a product leader, you're going to come across solutions that are looking for problems, right? Blockchain was one such. 3-4 years ago, nobody except for cryptocurrency and all of the speculative things that comes with crypto, no one really had a great killer use case for blockchain, and probably very few as of now as well. But it is important to keep at it. As a product guy, you can't just ignore future-facing technologies just because there is no use case as of today. Right? So we started with building NFTs, mostly because we've got a whole bunch of businesses like Rakuten Music and sports and travel, where fans really wanted to get premium content. They wanted to be shown along with football leaders like Iniesta, who is one of our football coach. By the way, we have a football team and a baseball and a basketball team as well. And so that made sense for us because it's digital content and you want to be part of that content. You want to remember when Messi hit that goal in midair in La Liga, and that you want that to be part of your collection. While that started off, now it's grown significantly high, and we own about 1/3 of Japan market for NFTs and growing day over day, right? From cartoons to manga to soccer, martial arts, anime. It's just taken off like crazy. But it took us about 3 years. We just kept at it, right? Kept building NFT, kept improving our blockchain, building enterprise blockchain, solving for crypto. And now, as we see on the right side, you can see that we feel that the crypto world is not just getting cryptocurrency, but using blockchain and crypto for even making payments happen. Sure, UPI unlocked payments in India, but what about global payments? It's still as slow as it was before. Right? Now, there are startups that are coming up which just using crypto as the underlying fabric to enable few milliseconds peer-to-peer payments globally. We are also working on things like keeping an eye on metaverse. We have a B2C marketplace, we have C2C marketplace. We feel e-commerce world is moving towards metaverse where you can buy based on experiential search, experiential discovery. So we are starting to incubate a lot of metaverse-related products, which we don't have a killer use case today, but we are going to be ready for tomorrow when tomorrow hits. And the last sort of theme in terms of tactics and strategy I want to talk about is disrupt thyself, right? As a product leader, you're constantly looking for how do I create 10x value or create a brand new business? And one of that is disrupting yourself. Rakuten itself was in the mobile telecom, virtual mobile network operator space, right? Where we were dependent on other third-party mobile operators to give us spectrum, to give us bandwidth, to give us cell capacity. And we were operating as a subscription layer on top, and we had a few million customers. And then we came up with this idea that, hey, we want to launch the world's first 5G network globally, but we are going to do it through some really cutting-edge technology called virtualized mobile cloud. Now, what does this mean? In simple terms, it's software radio as a service, right? The biggest cost in a telecom world comes from base stations and the hardware and edge routers that are needed to lay out this network globally. Just a 4G to 5G transition, it will cost you anywhere between $8 to $10 billion, maybe on the low side, $5 to $7 billion. Not every operator in the world is going to be ready for that kind of cash annually for a couple of years. So what we did was we disaggregated the hardware and the software, right? Think of this as VMware for virtualization for mobile. So we said, why does all the software and hardware need to be co-located in the base station? Let's remove the radio access network itself, virtualize it, put it in our cloud, in our data center, where it runs as telecom as a service, anything that's layer 2 and above. And just the hard layer 1, which absolutely needs physical infrastructure, is going to be in the edge in the base stations. And that cut CapEx costs by 40%. right? It also reduced OpEx by 30%. Suddenly, somebody like One-on-One Communications, who became our first customer in in Germany, instead of spending $4 billion on 1 year to build a telecom 5G network, is now pays, let's say, somewhere between $200 to $400 million a year over 10 years, because they are using telecom as SaaS now. All they need to do is investing in low-cost antennas that they go put all over Germany, and then they plug in to our telecom cloud, which is sitting either in Japan or in an edge in Germany, and boom, overnight they're a mobile network operator. Yes, it's a risky business, right? You know, the moment you take a radio access network to cloud, you're going to have to deal with bandwidth challenges, call quality challenges, right? Because now suddenly the entire call processing is moved from hardware to software. But we took a bet, and the bet paid off. We were the first 5G operator globally to launch 5G in Japan last year. It took 18 months to launch this. Extremely disruptive, and we just invented a new business for ourselves, which is going to be successful over the next decade. Second example, in terms of diversification and disruption, is we are a B2C company. I mentioned to you in the beginning what kind of a company we are. We are a consumer-oriented B2C services company, but we also took a strategic call that over the longer term, we need to diversify to B2B, because B2B provides sustained subscription revenue. You know, we have got an eye over what revenue is. Analysts love that. You know, we love it. And one of the things we wanted to do is enter enterprise SaaS. So as a product leader, one thing that's going to become very, very interesting is how do you incubate new businesses, right? And so we took a bet when it came to, we knew that we had 70 businesses, and each business has hundreds of microservices. So tens of thousands of microservices running at any given point of time. Hundreds of petabytes of data, multiple data lakes, unbelievable cloud infrastructure because of in-house data centers. Who is going to keep a health, who is going to monitor, observe the health of this massive infrastructure that we have built? It's us. We decided we were paying millions of dollars in licensing fee to third-party observability solutions. And not only that, they were all reactive, looking back, right, as to what happened when an issue happens. You know, our website, if it goes down for 15 seconds, that's just $500 million of revenue, poof, gone, if the users can't log in and start, buying stuff or paying for their transactions. So we decided this is the problem worth solving, not just looking back, but being able to forecast when things are under pressure. If our infrastructure team knows 2 days in advance, before a Singles Day sale, that traffic is going to hit 10x. So you've got to solve the load balancer is going to get flaky, memory is going to get flaky, the network pipes are going to be filled to the brim. You need to add capacity now, or you're going to risk losing the website crashing 48 hours from now. That's the level of transparency, forecasting, and cognitive ability that we have reached with our in-house enterprise SaaS product called 6 Sense. If you want to learn more about it, we have a booth right outside. Please go have a chat with the team. And tying this to the India story, the first market we launched 6 Sense is actually in India. We have about 24 customers in the market now. And that's because when COVID happened, a lot of offline businesses had to go online. Suddenly their traffic, their infrastructure increased exponentially. And we took a bet that this is a space for us to take our incubation business and scale it out. And I'm really, really happy to say this is one of the first B2B services Rakuten has launched in India, and it's live with 24 customers as of today. And finally, I'm going to leave you with something funny to think about. And it is that AI is not necessarily the panacea for everything. We use AI. We have got 70 businesses. We have 70 teams working on AI, from catalog enhancements to demand supply forecasting, to cancer research, to web search, to search engines, any single thing that you can think of. And as long as a product leader, you're aware of what are the constraints, what are you getting out of this? For example, let's say we are solving for fake products on e-commerce. We don't need to get 99.99% accuracy. It's never going to happen. But is 80% accuracy good enough? Absolutely. Because if I have narrowed down my funnel from 100% manual algorithms for rooting out fake products on my platform to 80% automatically done by AI and only 20%, that's an 80% reduction in cost. I'm good with that. So as a product leader, being able to accurately map the business need, customer need, product need, and the capability of AI is going to lead to a lot more practical solutions and not lead to the situation that we are looking at on the screen. So with that, thank you for your time, and I really hope this was of some use to all of you, and hope to catch up. Thanks a lot.